Okay, you join us down on Linear Fisheries for a 24-hour session where we're out with Josh Bennett. Josh, we're not going to trouble him too much at the moment. He's rushing about getting a couple of bits and pieces ready. Now, we turned up early this morning, went down onto Oxley's. We had a quick look at that, didn't really fancy the swims that were available. And with the beauty of this complex, because you've got so many lakes, we decided to jump in the cars. We've come over onto Brasenose 1. Got a couple of swims here. I've got a tutorial, Tomasz is out with me. And we're going to film the whole thing basically as it happens and what we're doing and how our heads are thinking through the session. The option we got at the moment, we saw a couple of fish showing out here, so Josh is just rushing to get a couple of rods together. We're going to pop them out there. We're going to give it an hour in the swim without getting all the kit out of the car, just to see what happens. We've had a look over on Brasenose 2. We've seen a few fish showing there, so we're going to keep our eye on that and just see what pans out and what we're going to do. So we're going to have a chat with Josh a little bit later when he's all out there and sorted, if this was where we're going to stay. So we'll see you soon. Okay, so it goes to prove it's well worth having your options open and being prepared. Josh has got some rigs sat in his car ready to go. He's tied a couple of zigs up as well. Popped the rods out there. Within 10 minutes, one's gone off. Is it on a zig, Josh?
This is on the bottom bait, this one, yeah.
Oh, he's got to take on a bottom bait. So that bottom bait that was sat there ready to go is paying dividends. So I think we may well be staying these swims here and taking it from there and getting a bit of bait on them. Okay, and this is proof of being mobile, being ready and prepared, and being quite happy just to sit in a swim for an hour or two if you think there's a sign without committing too much. You know, as we said, we saw some fish showing out there. Josh got his rods out really quickly, bagged them up out there. It's gone off within 10 minutes and it's a 19.5 pound mirror. Beautiful fish. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a couple of pictures of this one, get it back, and Josh is going to show you exactly what he did. There's proof again. It's literally, we've just photographed and put the other fish back, and Josh's middle rod's gone off. I think he's got one.
Bit of a nip one per one,
yeah.
Yeah.
But it just goes to prove, 2 casts out there and 2 of his rods have already gone off within the space of 20 minutes now. So we're going to get this one in, untangle it from his other rods and see what we got. Okay, as we said, got the rods out there really quickly, had the fish on the bag. We were just going to have a look at how Josh caught that one, and the zig's gone off in 8 foot of water with a small bit of black foam soaked up in a Betalin Black. It just goes to prove, I mean, out in front of us here we've got 13, 14 foot of water. We've got high pressure, the sun's out, it's beautiful, really warm. Now the rule books will tell you that you're only going to catch on floaters and zigs in weather like this. The fish are going to be up in the water, but as this is proved, you know, there's been one on the bottom. Within 2 foot of that, you've got a zig in there, and that's gone off. So, so always keep your options open. Look at all the different methods, and don't ever be worried. Just to give it a go, just for an hour, half an hour, or just change something. You know, it proves, as Josh has shown us here, that if you're willing to try different things and buck the system, then you know at times it does pay off. So in a minute we are actually going to get a chance to sit down and have a chat with Josh if he stops catching these fish. So we'll see you in a moment. Okay, so we're just after midday now. We've popped those 2 fish back and popped a little bit of bait out in my swim, or in Tom Marsh's swim. Right, Josh, show us what you've been doing.
Okay, we've had a couple of fish today, Brian, as you said, one of which was on a solid PVA bag and the other one on a zig.
Okay.
We'll come back to zigs later, but I was just going to talk about how to tie up one of my solids.
Okay, so with your solid bags, I can see there you've got your leaders already on.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of different types of leads there. Is there any reason you're using different types of leads within the bag?
Yeah, completely. So here we've got a normal inline lead. That's my usual setup for a water such as Brasenose, which we're fishing today. That's basically for waters that are very weed free, snag free.
Okay.
Whereas an inline drop off system, which is sort of demonstrated there, that is for more sort of weedy situations, snaggy areas where I need to drop that lead.
So as soon as the fish is, you hook the fish,
That's it.
you want that lead coming off so
Yep.
that the fish naturally comes up in the water away from the weed, which is much easier obviously.
Exactly
to bring
right,
in.
yep.
So no tail rubber on there at all?
No, just for the pure reason that obviously the minute a fish shakes that lead comes away and that can just slide through, and just for safety reasons.
Yeah. So what have you got? I mean, obviously you've got an assortment of pellets in there. What's your normal approach with a PVA bag? Is it white hook baits? Do you use pink ones? Is there a particular colour you fancy?
It all depends on the day. Personally, I'm a fan of white hook baits. So I've got a very small 10mm pop up there that is critically balanced against the weight of the hook.
So it's not actually sat right up, it's just
No.
literally just sort of dancing around.
Just
on
hovering
top of
over the top of those smaller pellets. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And can you just show us how you tie one up?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I've got a very small, or the smallest size Korda PVA bag. I also quite like the ESP ones as well.
Okay.
From there, I place 10mm bait in there and just hold the top of the bag along with the lead. Some people put the lead in before, it doesn't really bother me. I don't think there's any sort of...
I think there's loads of different ways of doing it, and it's
Yeah.
whatever suits you at the end of the day, what you find
whatever
easy.
I find works, yeah. Hinders mini combo, that goes straight in over the top of the hook bait and just covers the hook bait. Just shake that around a bit. In terms
So
of
that hook bait now with the hair and everything is completely sealed in that bottom
correct,
of the bag,
yeah. No way it can tangle.
which allows you, I presume now, to drop that lead down on top
That's it, and that's
without
exactly what I've done there.
any chance of it actually picking the hook up or blunting the hook or anything at all.
Yeah, so now as you can see, the lead is in the middle of the bag. That's just where I prefer to have it. Just a quick word on the mini combo. The reason I use the mini combo is because there's such small pellets there, you can really compact the bag. So just by sort of twisting the top and pushing down into the palm of your hand, you can manipulate the pellets inside the bag so that you can sort of shape it to how you want it. So the smaller the bag, and obviously the more aerodynamic you sort of make it, the further it's going to go.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Of course, if it's a big food item in there, they just don't sit next to each other, which means you're not getting that tightness of the bag, and you're getting air holes.
little air pockets. Yeah, exactly right. And obviously that all affects the aerodynamics during its flight. So if it's not flying true, then you're not going to be as accurate as you would be.
Okay.
Then a bit of PVA string or tape around the top of the bag. This is the fiddly bit. You just have to tie that off, which I'm doing now.
There's not many people that do that live in front of a camera either,
Not with hands
and
as
actually do it
steady as
perfectly
mine.
the
Yeah.
first time. So a couple of just ordinary granny knots.
Couple
in
of
there.
overhand grannies, yeah. Take as much of the sort of tag ends off as you possibly can, just to avoid any sort of unnecessary residue.
Okay.
You do get sort of occasional, especially in colder water, you get a sort of blob of PVA round the top of the bag sometimes.
Okay.
I see a lot of people leave the bag like that, so you get sort of little ears on the tops. If you can, just sort of lick
But
and
the
sit
bag
the
tends
tops.
to sort of fly a little bit.
Again, a bit
that,
unsteady in
doesn't
flight,
it?
yeah. So obviously we want to make it as aerodynamic and as tight and compact as possible. And as well as the aerodynamics, as that bag hits the leg bed, if it's nice and tight, it bursts open and you
Okay.
get a bit of a better spread.
Yeah, rather than just that little.
Yeah, and again, it's something that, you know, that little extra 1 or 2% that the fish might not have seen as regularly as tighter bags.
Plus, I think they cast a lot better than a straight lead as well, don't
I
they?
agree, yeah, completely.
I think the downside on PVA bags, as far as a lot of people are concerned, is if I don't get it first cast, then I've got to retie another bag.
Yeah,
But I think it's just one of those things. Practice makes perfect, isn't
Well,
it? You've got to. If you only cast once every 2 months, then it's not going to be very accurate. So
exactly, it does take a while to get used to them, and not only that, but the beauty of the leaders is I can make these up at home, and I can make 10 of these. So if one cast goes astray by 2 or 3 yards, that's fine. Reel in, quickly snip that one off. Re-rig it, out we go, and it's seconds. And not only that, for speed fishing and getting out quickly after a take, exactly like we did earlier.
Yeah.
Job done.
So what about other attractions? I mean, you've got your hook bait in there.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of plastic there.
Yeah, yep.
Which is that a pop-up or a balanced one? That one?
Again, balanced everything.
Okay.
Most things I use, very rarely are they popped up. They're all sort of balanced.
And then dip-wise, I know you use our Betalin Black. You've used our Betalin in the past.
Yeah.
Do you leave your plastic soaking in it all the time?
All the time, yeah. So I've got a couple of pots here. The Betalin itself, I think that's synonymous now with zigs and high vis pop-ups and things like that. It's fantastic. The addition of the black has been a bit of a revelation as well. In terms of sort of soaking them, just every now and again keep dripping them over the top of the pop-ups and things. And the good thing I've found is they sort of soak into the pop-ups, and they can affect the buoyancy of them as well. So for me personally,
I think if you dribble it like that, like you said, it's that dryness inside does pull it in. If you saturate the outside and leave them soaking in it, it just doesn't seem to penetrate in the same way.
Exactly, and I think by doing that over a period of time, the attraction is brilliant. You can reel it in after 2 or 3 days and still smell the Betalin.
Yeah. So how long would you leave a bag out there? I mean, we turned up this morning, as we said. We've looked at a couple of different lakes. We've decided to give it, an hour or so here with a couple of rods out there. They've gone quite quickly, so we still haven't seen what you would normally do in this situation. Yeah,
granted. I mean, we've been here a few hours. I would have still left that initial bag out there on maybe one of the rods. But the good thing with these is they're brilliant for just casting at showing fish.
Yeah.
So obviously having a few tied up, you can sort of, look where the fish are, cast to the showing fish. If they move off, that's fine. We can chuck another bag at them. But in terms of my confidence of them, not tangling, if I was fishing a water that wasn't as well populated as this one and wasn't as well stocked, I'd quite happily leave that out there for 24 hours easily because it's not tangled, it's there. It's
perfect presentation.
Exactly.
You've got the Betalin Black soaked in the hook bait, so you've got, as it gets that much closer, that extra attraction just to take it. You've got the visual side of the white hook bait. I mean, I've got to say, I agree with you. Pink used to be my favourite colour of everything. I always used to use pink. But I think this year has definitely been a year of the white. So many fish on white, on zigs and
sort of baits like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the added advantage of that is the pellets go a lovely sort of grey-white colour.
Yeah.
And that just looks like a pellet to a carp, I think. Yeah. And I think it matches PVA bagging, white baits matches it perfectly.
There you have it, from the master himself. Right, what we're going to do now, we're going to go and have a look. I'm going to go and get a bit more spot out in the swim next door where I'm fishing with Tomasz. I think you're going to look at recasting or putting a bit of bait in. I think he's actually going to go and make us all a cup of tea, which is about time. So we'll see you in a while. We're going to go get some bait out, and hopefully I will have another fish to show you by then. Okay, the last time we went out with Josh, we had a lot of people sending questions in and getting in touch with us saying they'd like to know what Josh did with this, that and the other. So we've compiled a list of a few questions. Don't look at the questions. A few questions from you, the anglers. So, tight lines or slack lines?
Slack, if I can get away with it.
Fixed lead or running lead?
Fixed.
Favourite Hinders bait?
Little Gems or mini combo.
That's 2. Favourite other bait?
Tails-up OCM.
Favourite lake?
Linear Fisheries Essex.
Favourite hook?
Korda curve shank in size 8.
Cook on the bank or take away?
Cook.
How can you say cook? He's had us running about like idiots cooking for him and getting takeaways. I don't believe that. He's lying. Right, that's about it for the questions. So if you've got any more questions, we're going out with Josh later in the year, so just get them across on Facebook or email us some questions over, and the next time we're out with Josh, we'll pose a few more questions to him for you. Okay, we've got to that lovely time of the evening now. It's about 6:15. Still got a lot to do yet, but we've come today. You've had a couple of fish.
Yeah.
You know, as we said, what we've tried to do is to do it as if like a normal session. We've turned up, couldn't get on one lake, come over here, we looked at here, we saw a few fish out in front of us. So Josh has whipped a couple of rods out there that he's ready for. Had a couple of fish quick and early on. Still a few fish showing, but after the fish they seem to sort of drift.
Just drift further away.
Just drift a little bit further away from us. I spent most of the day with Tomasz going through rigs and casting and spodding up, and we've gone for a heavy bed of bait out there, which is one of the normal approaches on Brasenose 1, and we've tried to fish it as a team, really, haven't we?
Completely, yeah.
We've looked at, okay, well, there's a few fish showing, get in there quick. Because the bags have worked, then Josh has sort of sat back with that through the daytime. We've jumbled around and tried different things and put more bait in, and all we got to do now is get the zigs out and put some bottom baits out there for tonight. Have one bottom bait out there today, that hasn't gone off. The zigs hasn't gone off. We haven't had anything down there yet on the bait yet. So it could well be that was a mistake within the session. But, you know, I think when you've got two people fishing, it's quite nice at times to say, well, you might as well play your options. You know, neither of us care who catches the fish, whether it's Josh or Tomasz, or, you know, Tomasz is going to catch some fish before we finish. I'm adamant. But as it stands now, we're coming into evening. You've changed slightly now, haven't you?
A tad, yeah. Like you said, it's great to work together. It's something that me and my dad do a lot in our fishing, is work together as a team. And if you're going on a big bed of bait, I'm going to go on a slightly, you know, lesser spotted area. We've got a couple of single bags out there, so we've got options covered.
Yeah, because you've put a lot of pellet in, haven't you?
Yes.
With boilie.
Yeah.
We've tend to hold back on the pellet and put more, lots of sweet corn, hemp, a bit of Nutz Sludge, a little tiny bit of pellet in there and a few boilies, but a lot less than the quantities you're working on.
More attraction, less food, whereas I've gone the other way, I think.
We've gone probably 3 times the amount of spods. You've done a dozen, we must have done 30 or 40.
Yeah.
Which is not uncommon for fishing this lake. But we've kept our eyes open, we've looked around. I mean, we've seen a few fish showing left of us. Unfortunately, we can't move there because there's already some lads fishing in there, but they seem to have dropped to a range that I think even if we were in there, we'd be pushing to get on them.
Yeah.
You know, to where they're actually showing.
They're in that middle channel, aren't they, of the lake at sort of, you know, 140s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
But I'm confident that with the bait we've put in, we'll be able to attract them back towards us this evening.
I think it's a common thing on these sort of waters. You know, you need to look around. Just look at the other anglers. Look what's happening around the lake. We've seen no signs of shows of fish anywhere, apart from this section of water that we've got with about 6 or 7 swims on this side of the lake. No one else has caught anything. Josh has caught the only 2 fish off of the lake today. So it's obviously not fishing brilliant, but over the next few days there's a bit of a change of pressure, and that's one thing that I'm working on. I think it's some stage, and it could well be within the next 24 hours, that those fish are just going to drop in on the bait and rip it to pieces, and that's what I'm basing everything on. But we've got our options covered. Steve the cameraman's going to drop in the next swim up. He's just going to pop a couple of bags out, so with the 3 different options, you know, we can see under these conditions, if we came back to this again, what would be a good starting point, you know. And I think if you come onto a water and nothing's happening, it's very quiet, you've got 2 extremes. You either go bags like Josh has done, which has been very productive, onto showing fish, or you can say, right, well, I'm going to feed them into bait. And these lakes, at times, I think by continually feeding, you actually make them feed.
You do, you entice them to feed. The bait becomes the feature in front of you, and like you said, you either do one or the other. You either try and nick one and just try and pinch a bite, or you entice them to get on you. And if you can do that, especially yourself and Tom tonight, you could have a good evening. Yeah,
well, we're hoping, we've got our fingers crossed. But it's, you know, the whole purpose of this was to try and do everything exactly as, You know, it's you coming down here and fishing to try and give you a better idea of how to approach these lakes, you know, because you do read in the papers and look in the catch reports, such and such has had 20 fish and matey's had 30, and you come on here and if you don't get a take or you catch 1 or 2, you think, I'm not very good. And it's got nothing to do with that. When these fish feed, you catch loads of them. And all the ranges, you haven't got to go extremely long. If you can fish very tight and accurately, I think you put more fish on the bank, don't you?
Yeah, if you fish well and present well, you're going to catch fish. But like you say, it can behave as it has done today, and I think we've been lucky to nick the fish we have, because like you said, there's a lot of anglers on for a midweek day, and I think that it's, you know.
Yeah, I think we've got 2 swims free at the moment, and they're over there where no one wants to be.
Exactly. So it can behave. It can behave a bit different at times. So yeah, don't always expect to come on and smash the place up straight away.
Yeah. But the other option we've got is we're going to sit back with this tonight. We're going to watch what happens, you know, early thing first tomorrow morning. Hopefully we'll see you in the morning with a few fish that we can hold up for the cameras. But if not, we can, you know, we'll look. We've got a good feeling that those fish are going to be back exactly where they were this morning. I think with those colder temperatures, because it's getting later in the year now, and we've hit the first. I mean, it was 4 degrees when we left home this morning, wasn't it?
This morning, I think. Yeah, it was chilly. We arrived this morning and it was cold. So yeah, if it can drop to that tonight, you never know what's going to happen.
So we're going to set on that. We're going to see what happens. If it doesn't kick off by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, we've still got an option. We can jump on one of the other lakes, because still within that 24-hour ticket we've got that option to move. So we're going to leave it all open at the moment. We're going to come off the zigs for tonight. Probably middle of the night, if nothing's happened, I might put a 2 or a 3 footer out there just to see if they are off the bottom a bit. But we'll wait and see, and we will see you in the morning once we've had hopefully a sleepless night and some nice supper. See you in the morning. I have a bit of a roundup for you. Last night it went very cold, very misty and foggy, and the fish, when they started, they were left of Josh out here. They were crashing like mad in front of the lads up here, but then it just all fizzled out to nothing. A very, very still night, and then Josh bounces up with this one. What a cracker, mate.
Beautiful fish, yeah, 25-12, just caught on my usual sort of little white dumbbells, just out over the baited spot. Put a little bit more out last night. Yeah. The fish seemed to move back onto us, and yeah, a couple of fish. This one was the first one, and we've got another one to show you.
Fantastic. Let's get this one photographed, and then we'll go and have a look at the next one. Okay, here's the second fish that Josh has had, a mid-double. How did you have this one, Josh?
Same tactics, over the bait again. So it seemed that a shoal of fish just moved in. They were both caught sort of quite close together. Yeah. But after that, they seem to have moved off. So we'll see if we can go and find them.
Okay. Seems to be the way at the moment that you know, Josh's approach with that slightly more pellet, a little bit more boilie, and not so much of the smaller bits and pieces has worked on this session. But all the fog and the mist is blown away now. It's starting to warm up. You can feel the temperature rising. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go off and we're going to show you some zig fishing. Right, Josh, we saw you fish earlier on a zig, and obviously, I mean, especially this year with the sort of temperatures we've had so much high pressure sun. zigging has been a massive part of fishing within this, certainly this year, if not before.
Yep.
So how do you approach zigging? You know, what components do you use and what do you actually look for?
I mean, very similar to a lot of other people. A nice light line and something that's quite fine in its diameter. So I've got a 0.25 diameter on that. That's actually quite a strong line of 12 pound.
Okay.
But that's the N gauge from Guru. I'd be quite happy to use any line. Drennan double strength is good as well. Something that's nice and thin. A very small hook. I actually really like the chodders on my zigs.
Oh, right.
The outturned eye just gives me a little. I just feel a little bit more confident with that. But definitely a size 10. Try not to go above that.
So it sits out there a lot more upright.
Yeah, it just sits a lot better
than just hanging over.
Yeah, whereas the wide gapes have an inturned eye. I'd be quite happy to use a wide gape, but I just prefer the chodders. Now I've found sort of how to use them on zigs. I'm quite happy to do that. In terms of the actual bait, black foam is obviously the ever faithful.
Yeah.
I also quite like some little black dumbbells from Tails-up that I use as well.
Yeah.
The only time I'd ever use a foam over that is when I want to get a very small particle in the water. So like we're doing here, spodding over zigs.
Yep.
The dumbbells are a tad big. They're sort of feeding on smaller particles, so I'll just use a little bit of black foam.
Okay.
And yeah, then from there you just adjust your depth to however you feel fit in the water layers where the fish are.
So is there a particular depth that you start at as far as the depth of water out? You know, say it's, I mean, we've got 13, 14 foot water out here. Yeah. The first one you stuck out was 10 foot.
Yeah.
And then you had like a 7 and an 8.
Yeah.
So it's just playing about with those depths, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. It was a really good point you made about where to start, and I think a lot of people struggle to sort of, they've got 12 foot of water in front of them, for example, they go, right, from 1 to 12 foot, where do I go? I always start at about 2/3. So in 12 foot, I'd start at 8. If ever you watch fish, especially this time of year, they're always in the upper layers. If you actually watch them, there's very few times they stay in the top layers all day. They're sort of up and down, up and down.
Yeah, yeah.
So by chucking 2 or 3 zigs out, instead of just the one slung anywhere, you can start to play with the depths. And sometimes inches can be the difference between catching or not.
That is the most amazing thing, I think, with zigs. At times, you get a take, and that is the only rod that goes. As soon as you change the other ones on an area, they've had nothing there for half an hour or so, and bang, off it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's right. Do you use anything to sort of dip your hook baits in to make them more attractive, or do you just use it straight out of the packet? Or?
To be fair, some people say foam straight out of the packet unflavoured. To me, the Betalin Black, well, the black now, but the Betalin, the original version, either is absolutely perfect. But yeah, something like that, it just attracts the fish into that area, and it just gives you that little bit of added extra over the guy next door. Excellent.
So there you go, that's all you got to do with zigs. Look at that depth of water out in front of you, be prepared to play about with different colours, different levels within the swim, and as soon as you get a take, then look at dropping the other two onto that same level and see what happens there if they're not moving. Okay, well, we're just about to come to the end of it then, Josh.
Just about, mate, yep.
It's like everything. We had our plans when we came down. It's like the best laid plans all went out the window. But we've come over onto B1, we found a couple of swims, a few fish showing. Josh has shown us how to do it. He's popped a couple out there, had one on a zig, one on a bottom bait very quickly. And then later into the session introduced some bait, and we gradually worked it through and thought about everything. And it's really something you want to look at with your own fishing. You know, the effort you put in, the effort that this man puts in is incredible. He's never stopping, he's always doing something, always looking, possibly if a slight different change in the mix or the hook bait or whatever. And it's paid dividends, mate. You've been a pleasure to fish with again.
Likewise, mate.
I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you've all learnt loads with all the bits and pieces that Josh shown us. So we'll see you out on the bank again soon.